Hey guys, BreathlessMan945 here, coming back to you with another video. I haven't uploaded in weeks. Sorry about that. I've been super busy between my job and schoolwork and the like. Haven't had any free time at all to record videos. Again, sorry about that. Also, I just haven't felt like recording. Didn't think that was a mood I would ever fall into, to be honest, but here we are. Anyway, the subject of today's video, WandaVision review. So, WandaVision, the last episode came out, the Friday before last, as I'm recording this, because it is, basically the last episode came out the Friday before last Friday, if that makes any sense. The Friday 2 weeks ago. Anyway, as I'm recording this, the first episode of Falcon Winter Soldiers come out. Yay! No, really, yay, because it is absolutely awesome. And I will be doing a review on that when it finishes, along with all the other Marvel shows, Star Wars shows, whenever they conclude. Anyway, moving on to the WandaVision review. So, I'm going to start with the sitcom aspect of it. Now, what I really have to applaud is how audacious they were with, I'm pretty sure that's the word, audacious they were with how much detail they went into with each of the different decades, because you can really tell the influences that they came from, and especially because I just watched a documentary, an amazing documentary called Assembled, which was about the filming of WandaVision. That was really cool, and it honestly helped me put a lot of thoughts together for this review, so thank you, documentary, for that. Also, if you see me drinking, I've got apple juice, which is my favorite drink. Anyway, because and I know some people don't really think this, but I thought the humor was hilarious. I thought a lot of the jokes hit spot on, and in particular, like, my favorite in terms of the comedy was definitely the Office inspired, the early 2000s Office inspired one. Just something about that one really clicked to me, but I definitely thought all the eras had their own distinctive jokes in a way, and I really liked that about each decade that they chose to portray. I also think they did an excellent job balancing between the Hex and the real world. And you really do get scenes that are kind of both. You get the real world and you get the Hex. And what I love about the first 3 episodes of the show, and this is something that I have to applaud about the structure of the show, period, is that you know nothing about what's going on. Literally nothing. And in the 4th episode, that kind of explains everything to you. And that's one problem I kind of have with this show, is I feel like just not a few too many things are explained. Just a few, to the point where it becomes a little repetitive. Like when Darcy, Monica, and Jimmy Woo are by themselves, I feel like there's too much explanation that goes on there. But yeah, otherwise, I think it was a very nice balance. I've also watched other reviews saying that like Agatha wasn't a very necessary villain. I think that she is. I think that I do agree that the true villain is actually Wanda, and I think they do an excellent job with that. But I'll get to the character, Wanda's character, a little later. Um, what I really, really love is how I think Agatha does her role well enough. I think that she plays her role well enough as this villain who has her selfish goals inside the Hex that Wanda is controlling. What I don't really like is the implication that she is the ultimate villain. She is a villain who had her own selfish motives for sure, but I don't think that the implying that it was only Agatha was the best idea. And that's the second problem that I have with this show thus far. And I do think, though, that without doubt, Agatha All Along has become one of my new favorite Marvel songs. Absolutely no one can dispute me on that line of thought, because it is such a banger of a song. Such a complete banger. Anyway, moving on. To Hayward's character. Hayward is a bit of a weird one for me because I feel like he's the Alexander Pierce wannabe. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I really like Alexander Pierce, and I think he's a very, very good Marvel villain. The reason I say Hayward is like a wannabe one of those villains is because he has evil motives, but I don't feel like they're properly explained other than he sees Wanda as a threat and wants to eliminate her. But I don't know, there's something about the way they executed that just doesn't sit right with me. And so for that reason, I kind of feel on Hayward. Obviously, you got the trio: Darcy, Monica, and Jimmy. It was nice to see Jimmy Woo again because he was such a charismatic character in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So it was very nice to see that in full force again. Anyway, I keep getting apple juice all over the place. It's a mess. Anyway, so obviously the main character show, well, two main characters, but actually, I want to talk about a few different characters to WandaVision. First off, let me say that I think the worst character in this show is definitely Quicksilver, and there are several reasons that I say this. Now, let me preface this by saying that when he was introduced in the 80s episode, like at the very end, I thought that was a neat idea. And to be honest, I haven't watched any of those X-Men movies, so I didn't even realize that it was actually the X-Men crossover. So, complete noob of me about that. But just something about I love the tiebacks and like the references to like Age of Ultron and the relationship. I liked all that stuff. I think that was executed very well. What I think was terribly executed was definitely the revolution is just some idiot named Ralph Boner. Like, that's just the most disappointing thing in existence, and like, I really don't know why they chose to make that decision at all, because yes, it was a surprise factor, but not a good one. Like, and I'm not one of those people who came up with all these crazy crossover theories and whatnot. But it was a little disappointing. I will say that, especially because what I had in mind when they brought back Quicksilver was the original actor who played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. I think it's like Aaron Taylor or something like that. Um, so yeah, I think it was a good idea, but the execution of Quicksilver's character was so poor that it ultimately just ended up being a giant disappointment. Um, now I'm going to talk about Tommy and Billy. Now, first off, what I think is really interesting is how they each like took after powers. Like one took after Quicksilver powers, and the other took after like her mom and whatnot. I thought that was a really unique idea, and I like that. And I like the concept of the children overall. I also thought it was really funny seeing in the '70s episode like how fast Wanda went through the pregnancy. Um, especially funny because when you watch the documentary, you find out Wanda is actually pregnant during that time. So, like the filming of that episode, which I think is really quite funny. Um, so that was quite interesting, and just really something to me about the way that they use the age mechanic and how like it kind of solidifies more and more of Wanda's logic. Um, I think that's really interesting. And I'll get to that as I talk about Wanda's character in a second. But I think they executed their characters really, really well. And then of course you got the trio: Monica, um, uh, Darcy, and Jimmy Woo. Now it was funny seeing all these people come back. Darcy wasn't my favorite character from Thor, but at least she's kind of put somewhere and not just this side character as a romance with another intern or this other annoying side character who's just like there as an intern. So it's really nice not seeing her being an intern and an actual astrophysicist, which makes me like her character a lot more in this show than I ever did in either of the first two Thor movies. Let me just say that. And then, of course, you have Monica. I love the tie-ins with Captain Marvel. That was pretty interesting. However, what I didn't like was the random powers that she seemed to get. I just didn't feel like it was explained well enough. I mean, sure, it looked cool while she was like defending the kids and whatnot in that one scene in the final episode. But, yeah, just something. Yeah, it's just not well explained. Which led it to be kind of weird when I was actually watching it. So now we get to the big pair, WandaVision. Now first off, let me just say, I think the romance evolves really, really well, and I absolutely love the dynamic that grows in between them as Vision tries to break free of Wanda's hold on him, and especially the effects of like how everyone wants to be set free in the final episode. I loved every moment of that. And I also really love the way that they kind of fought off each other and in the final episode, and just how their entire relationship developed throughout the entire show was fantastic. I thought that was one of the best things about the show, easily. So because of that, just it, yeah, it's a really good aspect of the show. Especially pertaining to Vision's character, I thought that like the action involving him was great, and just of a side off, one of my personal just favorite details I thought was so funny was in the 90s episode when they dressed up in their comic book costumes. Like, that gets me every time I think about it. Anyway, sidetrack done. I just had to mention that at least once. Excuse me. And then we get to Wanda's character. So, as we learn in episode, I think it's 8. It's 8 because that's the one where they walk through the memories and whatnot. We find out that just like this burst of rage just caused her to just fill up with magical power. And I think that was a really interesting twist. Especially with her being called the Scarlet Witch. I love that tie into the comics. And then the Darkhold, and I love his shield and whatnot. So just like because of those facts, I really loved episode 8 as well. Because of like the tie-ins to everything. And sorry, I'm just thinking about what to say. It takes me a while to, honest confession, sometimes I have to think really hard about what to say next, because these are all improvised. Like, I don't have any script for these videos. Anyway, so yeah, I loved it, the way they portrayed how Wanda actually made it, and eventually how she just loses more and more control over it as like the decades move on and things start to change, and even when she tries to expand it to fix it, it actually makes things worse because it's more to control. And then and as we notice in the 90s episode, like the farther out it is, the less control Wanda actually has. And I really think that whole part of it was displayed really well, because you really get this feeling of how she's just continually losing control. And I really, really love that. And I think Wanda's character was so well developed across the course of the entire series. So I love that. And now we're going to get to the final episode. So, and to whoever reviewed this show and said the action was disappointing, I'm sorry, but just F that opinion to me. Like, I don't understand that line of thought at all, and to be honest, it just sounds petty to me. I think that type of action was just what the final episode needed, was after the unique sitcom idea Then they finish it off with a classic MCU action scene. I love that. Great structure. And in particular, I really just want to applaud what they did with the White Vision and then the Vision philosophy battle. I loved that stuff. I thought that was the coolest stuff ever. Genuinely, I thought that was so cool and so mind-blowing, the Ship of Theseus stuff. And then, of course, there's a dynamic between Agatha and Wanda. And this was really interesting because, as it was said in the documentary, it's like the first truly aerial Marvel battle. And that was something that that the MCU really had never done before. And it looked so cool. And there are a lot of tiny payoffs to Age of Ultron with what Wanda does with her powers, and then how Agatha responds. And by the way, I love the fact, like tying into the comics, that Agatha Harkness was the witch, because that's just a whole new level of just awesome, in my opinion. Anyway, I especially love the payoff where you can only cast runes and whatever. I forget how the quote goes. It was like, you can only cast runes where you form them or whatever. Only the witch who... Oh, yeah, it's like only the witch who casts runes in the area can cast her spells in that area. Or something to that effect. And I love the payoff there, because when Agnes tries to use her magic, the one's like, I cast runes while you weren't looking, haha. And then... that's a very oversimplified version of it, but yeah, I think that the final action scene did a lot of things really, really right, and ultimately, in conclusion, I think that there were a few character issues, well, specifically a few very specific character execution and slight plot execution issues within the actual show, and because of that, it made it not as good as I would have liked. But don't get me wrong, it was still an extremely good show. It had a lot of funny moments, amazing character development, and great character relationship building. And I think each character, for the most part, played their roles really well, even Agatha. And I think that the final action scene was definitely worth it, and a very nice payoff to the MCU. And overall, Wanda and Vision by themselves were already two of my favorite Avengers before I started watching this show. So, just because of that only also ups the likeness factor for me. So that is why I really, really like this show. Yeah, thanks for watching, and have a nice night.